Okay. Good morning. I'm Sunnyvale Mayor Larry Klein, and thanks for joining me again this week at our early time. Happy end of July. Hope everyone is staying well. This is the 72nd installment of my weekly virtual office hour address. We've now reached 501 days. Congratulations. 500 days. More than 500 days since the March 16th, 2020 county health order started the shelter in place in an attempt to really stop the spread of COVID-19. 16 months ago, I converted my weekly coffee shop office hours into a live stream address and haven't missed a week since. I now, of course, follow this up with this virtual office hours with in person on Murphy Avenue at Bean Scene. But people really still say they enjoy hearing from their mayor every week, whether or not they can watch this live or watch it later in the week or over the weekend. But these weekly sessions are great because they allow me to reflect on the last week. And then they also give me a chance to give you some updates, some news, answer some of your questions, and of course, just provide some general words of encouragement. So I'm also every month, or for the last few months now, I've been changing my background. So if you want to for local artists, so this is the important thing for me is kind of highlight some of the local artists. So today's piece is called Scorched Earth, and it is again by Gita Taneja. So if you want to purchase that art, please reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with that artist. But thank you for allowing me to continue to represent you and work for Sunnyvale however I can. I hope everyone's doing well, staying healthy, and of course, wearing your mask again. And we'll be talking a little bit about that later. It's kind of difficult as things continue to change, going, from not wearing masks to wearing masks all over again. But I think, it's following the CDC guidelines and trying to prevent the spread of the virus however we can. So let's go ahead and talk about what's happened at the federal, the state, the county, and the city level over the last few weeks. Last Monday, Governor Newsom was in Sonoma and signed a $12 billion bill to provide services and housing to Californians without homes or those risking to lose their homes. And, the plan included 5.8 billion to add 42,000 new homeless housing units through Project Homekey, and that's the project that converts housing or converts hotels into homeless housing, long-term homeless housing. There was also $3 billion as part of that package to go towards housing people struggling with mental illness. And that's also a big portion of the unhoused issue. And so it's good to see those funds being put out there. We're currently working with several nonprofits that conceivably will find a location here in Sunnyvale to add additional housing for people that are previously unhoused. So that's one of the things that I've been working on in the background. And then last Tuesday, Governor Newsom was at an elementary school in Tulare County and signed a $8 billion broadband bill. And I think that's also one of the things that we've seen during COVID is the necessity of having good internet communication, especially with remote learning, especially for our children, and of course remote work that for those that can do it. And so this broadband bill is actually kind of interesting because it creates sets aside $3.25 billion to build, operate, and maintain an open access state-owned middle mile network. So this will be state-owned infrastructure, and I think that will provide a little more, I'll say, competition within who's providing broadband services to homes. It also has $2 billion set aside for that last mile broadband connections to homes and businesses, and another 750 million for into a reserve fund so local governments and nonprofits can secure financing for broadband. So I think, all that's positive, as far as making internet connections and like watching this, watching whatever live stream or internet connection address or getting information is available to everyone in our community. I think that is critical. And then last Thursday, health officers from Contra Costa County, Santa Clara, and San Francisco counties all announced that they want all employers to require their employees to be vaccinated against COVID-19, with few exceptions. And so they all they encouraged all their employers within the counties to encourage their employees to get fully vaccinated. And Santa Clara County went a little bit farther. So that afternoon they also said that they're going to be leading by example and requiring all of their 22,000 employees to become vaccinated. And San Francisco did the same thing last month when it announced that its 37,000 city employees want to be vaccinated, need to be vaccinated. That being said, they said that they wouldn't require it until emergency use authorization in the U.S. for the vaccines reaches full approval. And so that's still a few months away, but Santa Clara officials said that they wouldn't wait for full approval before making that requirement. Now, of course, they still need to negotiate with the employee unions, and that's been one of the issues that the governor's had when he made an announcement earlier this week. But we'll talk about that. And then last Friday, we had a beam signing at City Hall, and so the Civic Center renovation project is underway from that standpoint. But the building is now fully framed. So there was a big event. It was good to see our current council members, which I don't see in person. I've only seen a few of them in person up to this point. But we saw them and some past council members. But it was good to celebrate all the hard work that city staff, the construction teams have put in place, the design teams have put in place to reach this point. And the cranes are now officially down. The metal frame, the steel frame for the building is now up around that building. And so now we start working on enclosing it and moving forward. But it's really an impressive site because they've kept the majority of all those trees around there. They moved a good number of trees. So they moved 12 of the mature trees to different sites on the Civic Center site. And ultimately the new building will be net zero. It'll be LEED platinum. So from a construction standpoint, it'll be state of the art. It'll be low energy. But the positive thing is once the building is finished, it's combining 4 different buildings into one, which is one positive thing. But it's also where the old, what I'll call rabbit hutches are across the street where Nova is next to the library. That will become open space. So there will be an amphitheater. There'll be pathways. There'll be landscaping. So that site is going to be very, very impressive from that standpoint. But this was a milestone setting kind of an important point where now it's to finish closing in the building and start finishing that final interior construction as far as that's concerned. But it was actually really good from that standpoint to see us reach an important milestone, and take a moment to look forward. So as far as that's concerned, we'll rapidly see things that building close up, and then by the end of next year that building will actually be officially open. And then on Monday of this week, Governor Newsom had a press conference, and he was basically, pleading with the millions of unvaccinated Californians to get vaccinated. And as the state's largest employer, he announced that he will also lead by example and require all state and healthcare workers to show proof of vaccination or be tested regularly. And city staff has already been being tested regularly, so they're getting tested every 2 weeks if they want it, especially if they're out in the community. And that's one of the things that we've been doing for quite a while now. But the governor said, that they would go ahead and require that from a state standpoint. That being said, he also urged all the local governments and private employers to do the same. He avoided answering whether masks would be required by the unvaccinated. Of course, that changed later in the week, but he wouldn't broach that topic at that time. And then, of course, since the governor made that announcement, several of the unions have stated that they still are under negotiations and kind of push back on the governor's mandate. So it'll be interesting to see how that continues forward, especially during the recall. And then on Tuesday, the CDC changed its mask guidance in response to the rise of mainly the Delta variant, but the number of coronavirus cases across the country in the past 2 weeks, the cases have significantly increased, now approaching almost 100,000 cases per day. And so the CDC called for all vaccinated people, not just unvaccinated people, in high transmission areas to wear a mask indoors, kind of reinstating that previous pandemic restrictions as far as wearing masks indoors. And of course, it's not a requirement; it's a recommendation from the CDC. Although a lot of the states are already moving along that way, and so definitely, wear your mask when you're indoors. And I think the majority of the people in this area, especially going inside of supermarkets and Target and even in most restaurants, when you're going inside to order or whatever, most people are wearing their masks. So I think it's just especially while we're not completely out of the woods, I do think that that's just a good habit that people have gotten into. And then on Tuesday this week, City Council met. We had two big items. The first is council declared a stage 2 storage level, a stage 2 water shortage level, and a 15% water use reduction goal. Sorry. And this is part of kind of actions that we already undertook. Over last month, we defined what that stage 2 restriction would be. We approved the mandatory water irrigation schedule. And so that limits irrigation to 3 days per week based upon what your address is. So if you're on an odd number address, so if your address ends in 13579, you should only be irrigating your property on Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. And then if you're on an even number, it's Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. And of course, so that means there should be no irrigation on Wednesdays as far as that's concerned. And even on those days that you are allowed to irrigate, you're still prohibited from irrigating between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. So that was already part of our Sunnyvale Municipal Code, but ultimately kind of sets those targets in place, and those are goals to try to do that 15%. I've heard from multiple people that how are we meeting those goals, and they've already been, we've already converted all of our landscape into water resistant landscaping. We were already doing low flow showers and toilets. What more can we do? And I think this is a reminder more than anything else. People need to reduce their water irrigation. I think that will be a positive thing across the city. And then, from a certain standpoint, it's just education of being mindful of how you are using your water. And one of the things that I've been doing for the last 3 months is putting in our household is putting that bucket in the shower before you start your shower. And so it's like immediately capturing as much water as possible, and then using it to pour on your landscaping. So reusing that gray water as much as possible. And part of setting that putting that ordinance in place, or doing that declaration that there's a stage 2 water shortage, is also putting a fine system in place. So from an enforcement standpoint, Sunnyvale will enforce the conservation program. And it's mainly to solicit cooperation from water users who are unaware that water use restrictions have been put in place, and for those that fail to comply. So it's on the first and second violation, it's a warning, so $0. But on the third violation, it's $250, and on the fourth violation, it's $500. And so, this is a general reminder, and it's education for people, as there'll be a big rollout of that campaign from, Valley Water is going to be doing some of those efforts. But from a city standpoint, we're also doing what we can. There'll be postings on all of our social media, on Nextdoor, on all of the mailers that go out, just reminding people that you should be using less water, and that restriction goes in place, immediately, and continues on until July of 2022. So that's a good reminder for everybody. And then, as far as the other thing that we did was we adopt a resolution to support to temporarily allow the outdoor dining on private parking lots, and close the 100 block of South Murphy until the end of this year. And in the city, understands the issues of both the businesses and residents. But all I've heard from residents and all the businesses is it's been very positive to have outdoor seating on South Murphy, on different restaurants that have closed a portion of their parking lots. That being said, some of them have actually reopened their parking lot outdoors, because they've had more people indoors. But this has been a positive thing. We've talked about closing Murphy Avenue for years, and so this has been a trial period. That being said, there's still additional study that needs to take place, and so a study issue will be under council's consideration at our study workshop next year. And so hopefully that will move forward quickly, and we'll evaluate that, definitely to come back to council whether or not businesses can continue to have outdoor seating. And I think that's also, from in talking to the city manager and talking to city staff, that's already been something that's been allowed, and it kind of goes hand in hand with some laws that are going through the state legislature right now. So we're following those pretty closely. We'll probably be doing something additional when that comes back to us in December. And then on Wednesday, the California Department of Public Health announced that it recommends everyone wear a mask while indoors, regardless of the individual's vaccination status. So this is, basically changing what their previous orders were. The governor was very strong on, once you're vaccinated, it gives you that freedom. Following the CDC's recommendations, the state did the same recommendation as far as having everyone should be wearing a mask while indoors, regardless of whether or not you've been vaccinated. And I know, most people are already following that rule, but businesses have, that opportunity to require that if they want. And then on Thursday, President Biden announced federal employees must also show proof that they've received the vaccine, or they must wear masks at work and undergo regular testing. So I think, all that's positive from a certain standpoint. And I think the biggest thing in talking with the city manager is for those that are getting tested, if it's weekly testing or even more often testing, then it's an additional cost. Most healthcare providers are providing free testing, but it's usually every 2 weeks, once a month or something. But if they were being tested once a week, there might be some issue with that, but that still needs to be seen. But the White House, and the president, emphasized that this is not a vaccination mandate, and those who decide not to get vaccinated are not at risk of termination. So it's a mandate to test, and it's a recommendation to get vaccinated. That being said, the White House is not requiring it. It's strongly recommending at the end of the day. The president is also pushing state and local governments to put more incentives in place, like offering $100 per person to get vaccinated. Ultimately, the president was a little hesitant to force them, but basically recommended state and local governments to use their ARPA funds if possible to give people incentives to get vaccinated if they can. So let's go ahead and get to our weekly COVID numbers. We're not out of the woods yet, as obvious from the state and the federal standpoint. From a national standpoint, we now have 34.7 million cases. That's more than 500,000, so more than 500,000 new cases since last week. And last week, so it's up and above the increase from last week, which was around 400,000. And so this is mainly all because of the COVID-19 variant, or the COVID-19 Delta variant. So definitely, that's been a large increase. Nationally, we've reached almost 190 million people vaccinated with at least one dose. That's about 69% of adults, and over 60% of adults are fully vaccinated. And as far as deaths, we passed 609,000 deaths. That's more than 2,000 just in the last week. So definitely that continues. And then as far as California is concerned, we now have just over 3.8 million positive cases, and we're about 7,500 cases a day now. So that's up from 5,500 just last week, and then 5,500 a day last week, and then the week before that it was about 3,000 a week, 3,000 a day. So every week we're rapidly increasing the number of positive cases, mainly because of the Delta variant that's spreading. We've had about 64,000 fatalities, but on a positive note, we've had over 43 million vaccines administered, and as far as in comparison to other states, we're number 10 with residents with at least one dose. So 77%, almost 78% of our residents have at least one dose, and we're still at number 17 on states with residents that are fully vaccinated, with about 63% of our residents are fully vaccinated. From a county standpoint, we still have just over 120,000 positive confirmed cases, and that's cumulative, of course. 1,500 in the last week. That's about a 50% increase in the last week. So we went from 1,000 new cases a week ago to 1,500 now, and we've had 1,707 deaths, so one additional death in the last week. So from a from a county standpoint, we're doing okay. 83.9% of our county aged 12 and older have at least one dose, and 77.9% of our those 12 and older are fully vaccinated. So we're really doing great from a county standpoint as far as vaccines are concerned. I continue to do lots of advocating on our city's behalf, especially at the county level. I continue discussions with our county health and county supervisors. As for testing, you can go to sccfreetest.org to get to find out all the locations to get tested if you think you've been exposed. And then as far as getting vaccinated, our senior center staff are helping seniors get vaccinated. So if you are a senior that hasn't been vaccinated or know of a senior that hasn't been vaccinated, you can just call them at 408-730-7360, and they will help you set up a vaccination. And there's also the county's in-home vaccination service for those that are homebound or have difficulty getting out. And so those care managers will help you set up those vaccinations. And you can always go to sccfreevax.org yourself to set up an appointment or find out all the walk-in locations around the county that are available. I was talking with the county, and they will now be doing vaccinations on the first and last evening of our Wednesday night music that starts next week. So the pop-up location, the pop-up vaccination van will be in the Macy's parking lot at Washington and Murphy Avenue, in the old Macy's parking lot. And so they will be there this coming Wednesday, August 4th, from 5 to 10 p.m. And then they'll be back on August 25th, so that last Wednesday, from 5 to 10 p.m. So that's good. Anybody can do walk-up vaccination there. And then, of course, El Camino Health is providing vaccinations either at their clinics. They'll also be providing, no-cost COVID-19 vaccinations for anyone 12 and older at the Columbia Middle School. So that's on Morse Avenue, so 739 Morse Avenue, on Saturday, August 7th, so a week from tomorrow. And that's walk-ins, no appointments are required. And so definitely, there's lots of opportunities in our community to get those vaccines if you haven't got them already. Next, I want to announce some of the upcoming events. And lots of things are happening next week. On Monday, Monday, August 2nd, City Hall will reopen its doors from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So City Hall and the library will be back to normal pre-pandemic hours. So you can, go to City Hall now. And then on Tuesday, August 3rd is National Night Out. And so there'll be like 12 different block parties. And if you haven't set up your block party, now's the time to finalize that preparation. But there'll be block parties around the city for residents to get together. And so National Night Out is a national event. And I think last year was the first year that it hadn't happened in numerous years. But the first Tuesday in August is a block party around the city, around the state, around the nation. But it's a chance for residents to get together, kind of socialize, get to know your neighbors a little bit better. And then of course public safety goes around the city with fire trucks, the K9 officers, the motorcycle officers, as well as city council members will go around from location to location. So it's a great time. It's a good time to meet the community, and different neighborhoods do different things. They do food drives or donations to Sunnyvale Community Services. There's lots of events for kids. Some of them do music and bounce houses for the kids. So hopefully your neighborhood is doing something this coming Tuesday. And then Wednesday is the beginning of our Wednesday night downtown music for all the month of August. So Wednesdays and Saturdays for every evening for August, we'll have our downtown music series. Wednesday starts with the Groove Foundation, and then you can come back on Saturday for, I think, first Saturday is blues. So go visit the Sunnyvale Downtown Association website, and they have the full listing of what the different musicians are going to be for those events. And then Thursday night is we're going through redistricting from based upon the 2020 census. But outreach will happen, and city staff will conduct a communities of interest workshop, and this will be our first hybrid meeting as far as that's concerned, and it'll go from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Columbia Middle School. So that's at 7:30, of course, 739 Morse, and it'll also happen virtually on Zoom. So you can register and get that link. But this is to get feedback on what we think our communities of interest are. And we did a lot of this effort when we were doing redistricting or districting of the city 2 years ago. But this is our first outreach meeting based upon trying, in preparation for the census data that we'll finally get in the fall. And then on Monday, August 9th, and I mentioned this before, is the deadline for our boards and commission applications. So we have 3 positions open: the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advocacy Commission, the Heritage Preservation Commission, and the Personnel Board. So applications are due by 4 p.m. on Monday, August 9th. And then, interviews are scheduled for August 17th. So hopefully, if you're interested in getting more involved in the city, you can apply for one of those positions. Let's go ahead and get to our weekly questions. Francesca asked, and if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat. But Francesca asked, I would like to report an issue with the Sunnyvale Community Center area and its growing geese population. I often take walks there, and over the years, I've seen the goose population grow significantly. Each season, they make a lot of new goslings, and given their high numbers, it's probably nearly impossible to keep up with cleaning of the park and the grass, and all the walkways are almost always covered with their droppings. This is not a problem limited to the park that gets cleaned every now and then, but the geese also cross the street and make the sidewalks and road dirty. I often see kids playing there, and I wonder if being in such close contact with the droppings is good for their health. I know this is not an easy problem to solve, and I have no idea what the solution would be, but I think it would be great for the park for that problem to be solved or alleviated. So, thank you, Francesco. I appreciate the comment and the question. This is always an interesting thing because we have some residents who love the geese, and then there are those that definitely have issues with the mess that they leave behind. And so definitely there will be outreach meetings starting in the fall to look at long-term use of that full community center site. And part of that is possibly removing the pond along Remington, and I think that's one of the main reasons we have so many geese there. From my standpoint, I think this, the concept of having that pool is nice. That being said, having more active space for people to actually be would be a lot more positive. So reducing, conceivably removing that pond, and then reducing the fountain at the top to just a recirculating fountain would be a lot better. But definitely, I do think that having the number of geese there has grown dramatically, and there have been efforts in the past to try to get the geese to move on, but that's an ongoing cost. And so I think changing that environment a little bit and making it less amenable for the geese, I think would be the best thing in the long run. Evelyn asked, when is the Washington Park Swim Center opening? And so we've talked about this before. It was supposed to be opened late July, early August. It was, finally going to be opened. They were shooting for August 2nd when the rest of kind of city operations opened. And the opening has been delayed, and it's looks like it's going to be, 1 or 2 weeks because of some issues with some of the pool equipment. And they finally got some of that equipment in, so the splash pads have been, have been installed. There's some outdoor equipment that's been there, but some of the ADA equipment has been delayed, and that's until that's been installed. We can't get our final inspections, and so the city has issues with inspections as well as everything else. Making sure that that ADA equipment is there is critical at the end of the day. And there was a swim camp and some training and some swimming lessons that were being planned for De Anza pool. That being said, they've been moved to the other two pools. So they've been moved to, I think, Sunnyvale Middle School, as well as De Anza, so the De Anza school. So the swim camp is swims camp, and those lessons have been moved to the De Anza and Sunnyvale Middle. But that being said, I'm hoping that it opens as quickly as possible. There is going to be a grand opening event, so a ribbon cutting ceremony next Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. But nobody will get to use the pool, so it's just kind of touring the location, seeing that they were doing the kind of the final prep this week. So the new sidewalk and the new doing the final landscaping. So they're getting very close, but some of that final equipment, some of the guideways, some of the like the water, the ADA chair for lowering people into the pool, that hasn't been completed. So that still needs to get done. Hopefully that will get done in the next week and will be open for business for everyone. John asked, when is live music coming back to Murphy Avenue? I really miss it. That was always seen as part of summer. And so we're at the end of July, about 2/3 of the way through summer. But Wednesday Night Rock and Saturday Jazz comes back next week and will be here for the whole month of August. So I'm looking forward to seeing people in person. I think there's a lot of people that miss that event downtown, that yearly event that we've been doing for so many years. And I think it draws in people not just from Sunnyvale, but people from the surrounding community to enjoy. And then, of course, Chuck asked, will there be an Ardent Wine Festival this year? So yes, the Chamber is, putting on an event, not summertime this year, but it's planned for October 2nd and 3rd, so that first weekend in October. So that's already been planned. And the Chamber's actually also holding the Murphy Awards, and so that's scheduled for Saturday, August 21st. So for those of you that have attended the Murphy Awards in the past, it's there to, or haven't, it's your chance to go. It celebrates the individuals and businesses who really demonstrated exceptional commitment to the success of our community. And so that's been a yearly event for many years now. And so if you want, you can go to the Sunnyvale Chamber website and find out both about the Ardent Wine Festival and how to sign up if you want to be one of the locations that sell there. And then there's also, you can find out all about the Murphy Awards that will be held on August 21st, so that Saturday night. Cindy asked, will we have an ice rink this year? And I just heard earlier this week that yes, we will have an ice rink downtown. So it definitely was a lot of fun 2 years ago when City Line tried it for the first time. But City Line announced earlier this week that the ice rink will open on November 19th. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think, having more of those outdoor events is always good for the community. It's bringing people downtown, it's getting out, it's exercising, all that's, very positive from that standpoint. I think that's the majority of the questions. Let's go ahead and let's see. Were there any questions in the chat? Off subject, did I find a home for the iguanas? No. So we had a kind of a blue-green iguana show up in our backyard yesterday, and I posted on Lost and Found and on Nextdoor. No one said that they lost an iguana. So for now, it's just going to be a member of our backyard or our local community here. Yes. Okay. So yeah, so it looks like people are looking forward to Wednesday night music next week, and I'm sure the downtown businesses are going to be busy. You know, the outdoor seating has actually been very busy as far as I've seen over the last month. You know, people really enjoy being out, especially on Murphy Avenue at all the different restaurants and cafes. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for joining me again this week. I'm really proud of Sunnyvale's response to the pandemic over the last year. The future is still uncertain. New issues continue to come up, just like they did this week. Mask mandates change. The lay of the land is constantly changing, but your actions really do make a difference. Get your vaccination if you haven't already. Please wear your mask when you're inside, when you're meeting up with people that you're not sure what their vaccination status is, and continue to work on rebuild community wherever you can. I'm constantly helping people find nonprofits to help out at, giving them ideas on how to give back to their community. Sunnyvale really will emerge from this as a stronger community. We're in this together. We'll get through this together. Thanks for listening. Take care. Have a fantastic weekend, and of course, wear your mask whenever you need to. Okay, take care. Goodbye.
So I heard this